Hey, hey, Grand Rising, good people. Grand Rising, as you can see, I'm in a good mood, good energy, spirits are up. Got my South Beach color waves on. You know what I'm saying? I was going to button an extra button and said, nah, we leaving it open. It's hot. It's hot. I think it's hot everywhere right now. It's hot everywhere. I heard it was hot in Jersey. I was drenched yesterday trying to walk around and deliver these damn letters that I've been sending out. Whew, I'm talking like walking down the street. Like I walked down the street from my apartment, and I just happened to bump into another dude who happened to be an attorney, and I'm looking for another attorney's office. And we're talking. He like, yo, like, you good? You need a towel? I'm hot because I had just got out the shower, lotioned up. You know how that is, and then you hit this humidity, especially when you come out of it's cooler in my apartment. Hit them streets, it got ugly. But I just went in the room. I went into a building. They had AC blasting. That's one good thing about Miami. That AC is gonna be blasting in most buildings. So I just chilled in there for a little bit. I just kept bouncing back and forth between the AC to cool off, and then the sun, or at least outside to just dry off a little bit. Get used to the heat. But no, we got a cool show for y'all today. Excited to continue this conversation. I know we were supposed to touch on, putting a little bow on the affirmative action, but I don't think there's really a bow to put on it, because I think it's I'm glad it happened, because I'm just glad that, the conversation's coming up, because I think it's going to force us to really increase our standards in a lot of different areas. And I think it shines a light on a lot of the social programs that we believe mostly help us, or at least it appears that they help us, but in a lot of areas it doesn't seem to be. But it is what it is. It is what it is, right? It's on us to figure out what works best for us, regardless of the policies, regardless of this and that. We are still the leaders within our household, within our smaller community. So the burden has to be on us. Let me know if the outside noise is a little bit too much. I know it can travel, bouncing sound waves bouncing off these damn buildings. But yeah, we're here. We are here. We are here. We are here. Do I need to? Yeah, I got my whole notebook, man. Y'all know I'll be right. This is the stuff that I do all day. If stuff comes to mind, I just write it down, work through it. I told y'all I was on the computer mostly before. I went from a notepad to not writing my notes in a notepad. When I got out of football, I was in the medical device industry, and I used to just write down. I had a small notebook about this big, and I just used to write down all my notes, everything that happened that day, everything that the surgeon said, everything that they said that they needed, any question that came up, where my competition may have slipped up a little bit. All these different areas, I just made sure that I wrote them down. Just wrote everything down. I don't want to hear that. Let's see how this one is. Yeah, so I just wrote down everything. And as I was writing down everything, just I was able to refresh my memory, draw back to certain things to where it's like, oh, this is where I could beat my competition. Whatever, neither here nor there. That's not the point. The point is that I'm back to writing, because I lost my notebook. It fell out my car one day. I think it fell out my car. So then I was like, you know what? I got to get back to the computer, because that way everything's backed up. Then I got to the Remarkable. Remarkable allows you to write. Remarkable is cool, but I just don't. Nothing can compare with just pen on paper. I don't think anything can compare to pen on paper. Not even pencil. Like, nah. I mean, maybe if you're sketching or something like that, but I like seeing like crossed out. I like that. So, but yeah, let's get into the weather, and then we're going to get right into this show. Let's get into the weather. As you can see, the topic is, do you want to feel good or be good? Big difference. Do you want to feel good or do you want to be good? Y'all know we when it comes to feelings, we ain't moved by feelings too much over here, but we do understand that most people are. So therefore, we have to adjust our approach accordingly, or not. or not. But let's get into this weather. All right, so Miami, 82, mostly sunny, going up to 92. All I ever do is just go to the evening because I want to see if what's the chance of rain so I can jump in that water. Now we got to start putting in the air quality. So air quality is 46, so we're good out here in Miami. We're gonna look at Jersey. All right, so Jersey, what are they saying? Jersey is 76 right now, high at 90. Jersey, I got some okay weather. Looks like it may small chance of rain in the afternoon. Small chance of rain. Rain isn't always bad, breaks up some stuff, but when it's 90 something degrees out, that rain's not doing much. It's just annoying. Now you're wet and you're hot and it's sticky. You got to take like 4 showers a day on days like these. But the music is being lowered, and we shall get into it. Let me throw that up there. Gotta have the grand rising, good people. All right, so let's talk about it. And Kiki was bringing up some great points at the end of the last show when we were touching on these. Hopefully Kiki be on later. But affirmative action, I wanted to circle back to that because it seems to be the talk of, still the number one topic on a lot of these. I don't really watch the news, but, sometimes I'll catch certain clips on YouTube. Still seems to be relevant, unless it's just showing based on my algorithm, which could be possible as well. But I don't want us to miss the lessons and takeaways from the affirmative action talk. And what exactly do I mean by that? All right, so when I look at the affirmative action, and I'm not sure that everybody understands what exactly happened. So this group, and let me get the guy's name who actually brought the suit forward, a guy named Edward Blum, a legal entrepreneur who has organized many lawsuits challenging race-conscious admissions policies and voting rights laws, several of which have reached the Supreme Court. So this is what Mr. Blum, Edward Blum, Eddie said, Eddie's the one that brought his group is what's the name of his group? Hold on. It's like the Fair Society or something. I don't know, whatever. Him and his group. And Eddie said that Harvard and University of North Carolina have racially gerrymandered their freshman classes in order to achieve prescribed racial quotas. Every college applicant should be judged as a unique individual, not as some representative of a racial or ethnic group. So when it comes to a lot of these decisions, it's usually people on one side, super extreme, saying like, yeah, we definitely shouldn't have affirmative action, shouldn't have affirmative action. People on the other side saying, we definitely should, we won't be able to survive without it. It's the extremes. So in the case of this, and when you have extremes, you usually have people pairing with other people that are not typically on the same side, or maybe not even on the same side, but because their side, that side just aligns with that particular viewpoint, it's taken in a certain way. And let me be very clear that for the reasons why I think that this of getting rid of a race included in the affirmative action as a factor in deciding applicants and pushing more towards just a merit-based system, the reasons why I think that that's beneficial, that's not necessarily, I don't necessarily believe that all the people that are with, are happy about the race being taken out of it. I don't think that we're happy for the same reasons. I don't think we have the same intent. I don't think that they are behind it because they think that it's actually going to help Black people. I don't care. I don't care how you feel about it. I just care about the results. And you're going to hear that a lot in this show, comparing how something makes us feel and how we respond to that versus how something actually, the results of something, how something actually changes something. So that's going to be a topic that we always, that comes up a lot in this podcast, this AM show, and we're going to start off with one of the questions that I had. Is there a difference between private and public as far as how these policies should be implemented? So is there a difference between private and public as far as how these policies should be implemented? Don't worry, I'm gonna write it. Is there a difference between private and public as far as how these affirmative action policies should be implemented? I used to be a fashion typer. All good. There's no typos there, but hey, so that's the question. That's what I asked myself. Is there a difference? So I was looking at, so the study, we're going back to what Edward Blum is. Pretty much when you look at the studies, it shows that an Asian student, like one of the things that keeps coming up with Michelle Obama, Barack Obama, all these different people that are in support of affirmative action, including race, they keep saying that, oh, well, it's not like the people aren't qualified. It's not like the black students aren't qualified. It's not like the black people getting the jobs aren't qualified. They're not as qualified. We're simply not as qualified. And all you have to do is look at the numbers. And I don't think people are looking at the numbers. If an Asian student has to score 200 to 300 points higher in order to get accepted into a school, 200, let's say 200 points more than a white applicant, 400 more than an indigenous applicant, African-American, black, told you we're getting away from that black word, and African-American. They have to score higher. That's like if we go to the movies and the Asian person has to pay more for the movie than the black person has to pay for it, or the white person has to pay for it. Like, just from a sensible standpoint, does that seem right? Does that seem right? And that's why I go back to, you can't, I know we have people on one side that are trying to quote unquote solve racism. I don't think you can solve racism altogether. And if you can, the only way to do that is to have open competition, not to put quotas like, oh, you have to have this certain amount of people, this certain amount of people. That doesn't work. Have open competition and have it based on a merit, just merit based. I told y'all before, that's how it was in college. When we were applying for the business school, it was just based on your GPA. They took the people with, let's say, the top 200 people that applied to the business school, the top 200 GPAs, that's who they accepted. It is what it is. They didn't factor in this, factor in that, factor in this, that. No, you get the best people. You get the best people. And if there's a group, like there was a group, let's say in our football locker room, I believe I was the only black person in my class to get accepted into the business school on the football team. If that's the case, then just you figure your grades out. Figure your grades out. I'll be totally honest. I was one of the ones at the lower end of the GPAs. How do I know? Because at first, when they first did let's say the top 100 or 200, I didn't get in. But then as people, who applied for it, you get some of these kids, they just super smart. So they apply in every school and then they'll figure it out on the end. I ain't mad at that. But when they didn't, move forward and applying for the business school, then all they did was, okay, 10 people dropped off. Then that means we'll go to the next best 10, the 10 best GPAs, just merit based. I can't go there and say like, hey, because I'm a football player, do you think we can work something out? Or, hey, this isn't as fair because I got to spend, this amount of hours per week on football. So therefore it takes away from my education. And that happens at some schools. And it's interesting because I was going to get into the football aspect of this, but let's get into the football. I was going to wait a little bit. Let's get into it now. When you look at the GPAs of football players, should they be able to get in with lower grades? And what does it do? When I look at a lot of these big big time football programs. And how do I know any information about them? Because I didn't go to a big time football program, but I'll tell you exactly how I know about them. Because everybody that I played with in the NFL and the CFL, the majority of them went to big time football programs. And when I would ask them about, hey man, like what was the academics like? Man, what? Like we had note takers, paper writers, supporters. They have people that are given jobs to support certain players in their classroom, in the classroom. Now that may make a player feel good. Going back to that theme as feeling good, but that's not going to make a player actually become good. They're not going to receive the education that other students would be receiving. And although it may seem like a privilege at that point where it's just like, yo, I just got to show up and just, show up to class. I ain't really got to do much. Teacher going to pass me. I got my note takers. I got somebody to help me on the test. I get extra time. All these things are crippling people. But we look at them as advantages because it makes us feel good. Oh yeah, my college experience, I feel better, when I have somebody taking notes for me. I feel better when I have somebody helping me with my paper. I feel better when I have somebody that can help me on my test, review my test with me. I feel better knowing that I have extra time. You are being crippled. And what happens with a lot of these players that I was teammates of, they are not able to adjust to society because their standards were so low for so long in every single area except football, that once football was taken away from them, they could no longer compete in other areas of real life. But they felt good. They felt good. And shout out to Lucille. Shout out to Lucille. What we got, Lucille? Good morning, beautiful family. God bless your Friday and your weekend ahead. Appreciate you always bringing in the great energy. I want to be good and feel good by doing good. I'm with it. I'm with it. I'm with it. If you can do both, let's do both. I'm with it. But let's get into, so I asked you that question, is there a difference between private and public as far as the policies and how they should be implemented? And I actually wanted to read this article with y'all, man. I'm telling y'all, I was looking at this stuff for a while. I want y'all to see this article of what, because this is not the first time where somebody brought up, it went to the Supreme Court as far as them being able to include race in determining admissions. And I want to tell you what the Harvard, with this Harvard professor, or not the Harvard professor, I think he's the head of Harvard. Hold on. Let me find it. Challenging racial conscience, Harvard University. No, that's not it. Hold on, I have it set. Okay. In 2019, federal district. Whoa, I didn't see that one. Hold on. And because this is about how they determine sending out, colleges will send out letters. So they were sending out letters. Hold on, y'all got to read this. Hold up. This is the wrong article. If I can't find it, I screenshotted it, but I wanted to read a little bit more of the article. Hold on, that's NPR. Hold on, NPR. Y'all relax. All right, so is this it? I think this is it. Hold on. All right, so pretty much. All right, so they were sending out recruitment letters. All right, so Harvard sends out recruitment letters, and Harvard was they were sending out the recruitment letters based on different people's GPA. So if they were sending out recruitment letters to Asians, they had to score a certain number that was much higher on their SAT score. So an Asian, let's say, hold on, I got to read it. Asian Americans only receive a recruitment letter if they score at least 250 points higher, a 1350 for women and a 1380 for men. So Fitzsimmons, this guy, hold on, doesn't matter who, explained a similar process for white wannabe students in states that don't see a lot of Harvard attendees, like Montana or Nevada students, and those states would receive a recruitment letter if they had at least a 1310 on their SATs. So they were arguing that it's race discrimination to send out these recruitment letters that are different based on the race, based on these things. And they also included, more of the rural white areas. But the dean, so this is the dean of the college, he said it is not discrimination. He said the school targeted certain groups in order to break the cycle and try to convince students to apply to Harvard who normally wouldn't consider the school. So that makes you feel good, right? Oh, they want to, you know, they want to encourage kids who wouldn't normally apply for the school to apply for the school. It makes you feel good. It makes you feel like they're doing a courageous thing. But how is that impacting the people that you're actually lowering the standards for? What is that doing to them? In what area of life could we say that lowering our standards is better for us? And we're gonna touch on that later, because you can argue that with this new decision for the Asian Americans, because they wanted to make sure that they don't necessarily have to score 300 points higher in order to get into Harvard and North Carolina and other universities like this. Wouldn't that be lowering their standards? But we're going to talk about later on why there's a difference. And it's all based on their culture that they've already established compared to our culture that we've had established. So let's keep going. Let's keep going. All right. So we said, is there a difference between private and public as far as how the policy should be implemented? What did y'all think about that? So is there a difference? And Harvard is a private school. UNC is a public school. And here's my stance on this. If I'm a private university, private anything, private business, company, whatever, I'm doing what I want to do. And I think that every private company, school should be able to do what they want to do. They're private. Let them bring in whoever they want to bring in. You're applying. If I'm a company, let's say I'm a company, and you see this all the time. Shoot, one of my clients, they're Russian Jews. They work with a lot of Russian Jews. When I go into this client's office, most of the people are Russian Jews. It just is what it is. I'm not mad at them. I actually like it. I like it because it shows me that they are so in tune with their community that they want to bring, that they're all about their group. They're all about their community. They're all about their tribe, their village. What's wrong with that? Should somebody go in there and say, hey, I'm the only black person in here. We need to rearrange this. This is not fair. No, they can do whatever the hell they want to do. And if I don't like it, then I'll create my own company. And I can hire whoever it is I want to hire, the people that I want to be around. It's almost as if you have groups of friends where it's like, hey, you only have white friends or you only have Indian friends. We need to adjust this quota. Bro, I hang out with whoever the hell I want to hang out with. If it's a business, it's a privately owned business. You didn't put the blood, sweat, and tears into this business. So therefore, you shouldn't be able to factor into the decision-making in this business. And if people want to say, hey, they only hire this type of people, then let people say that. The business has to be okay with that. If somebody wants to criticize one of my clients for saying, hey, y'all predominantly only have Russian Jewish people working there. Okay, criticize them, I guess. I don't know. I mean, the company has to be okay with the criticism, but going back to this whole, like, you know, we live in this like cancel society, cancel culture where it's like, oh, you have to have, how many gay people do you have working? How many feminist women do you have working? How many women? Bro, how many men do you have? It doesn't matter. It is what it is. There's more women that are executive assistants. They get paid well. It is what it is. Truth be told, if I had an executive assistant, I probably wouldn't want to hire a guy, or I'd be more likely to hire a woman. It just is what it is. I'm trying to think, like, if I said, or it would have to be a younger guy. I don't know. Like I could have a more of a, like, I'm trying to think, because when I said younger, I had my young boy. He was He was working as my assistant. Matter of fact, yes, it would definitely be a woman. I've just had better experiences with people working with women in a certain particular categories than men. It just is what it is. But let's continue going. Let's continue going. But my main point is, if it's my thing now, public, let's say if you work for the police or something like that, we'd have to establish, certain policies there, I guess. That stuff should be definitely over. You have to oversee a lot of this stuff, because when it comes to like the town stuff, now the town, like the public, if you work for a city, municipality, whatever it may be, there has to be a lot of structure or people paying attention and overseeing those processes. Because where I grew up in Montclair, I'm sure it's like this in your towns, these people that get these positions, let's say you have a super diverse town like Montclair. It was growing up, it was more diverse when I was there, where I remember, half the kids were black, half the kids were white, or 40% black, 40% white, and then 20%, a little bit of everything else. But then you go to like the fire department, and because the chief, let's say the chief, won't throw out any names. Let's say the chief is a white guy. He may hire other white guys. He may just be hiring his family and his friends, and his family and friends may be more likely to be white. If he's Irish, he may hire more Irish people. Now, when it comes to the city, yeah, that needs to be addressed. Somebody needs to oversee that, because the city should be, in my opinion, more of a direct representation of the actual city. Now, I don't think that you should be adjusting, applications or adjusting scores based on, or adjusting who you accept based on having, this person they belong to this, they're black, so they can have a lower score, or they're Asian, so they need to have a higher score. I don't believe in that, but there needs to be somebody overseeing it, just to make sure that people ain't just hiring their homeboys, hiring their homegirls. So I'm with that. But I see a huge difference between private and public. Private, if I put up my bread for a business, if I put up my bread, yes, a college is a business, a university is a business. If I put up my bread and this is not a public thing, I'm doing whatever I want to do. I'm hiring whoever I want to do. I'm admitting whoever I want to do. And I think that's how it should be. And when we think, we're going to go into a little bit of the pros and cons of affirmative action. Look at the negatives, look at the positives, because what's it really going to do? What's it really going to do? Because you hear so many people talking about, when I talk to like my dad's generation, looking at my dad, and I talked about this before, he benefited perhaps from affirmative action, when he became an attorney and then getting a job. They may have wanted to hire him to, hey, let's make sure that we get some diversity in here. So he got a job. But what if he didn't do that? What if they said, oh, nah, we're not hiring. We're not hiring you just because we want to bring in somebody black. What if they said that and he couldn't get a job? It would feel real bad at the time, right? But would he be forced to create his own? Would he be forced to open his own firm to the point where then he can hire whoever he wants to hire? See, a lot of us brag about the opportunities that affirmative action has given us, but we're not even realizing the fact that, you got a great position. You're the chief financial officer. This affirmative action helped you get in that position. You started here and now you're the chief financial officer. Yeah, but you don't own shit. You're not the owner. You're not the chairman of the board. You're not anything. You're a high-level exec, and there's a ceiling there compared to when you create and build your own. Why do most cultures create their own businesses? And a lot of times it's because they were discriminated from joining other people's businesses. So what do? They create their own. We talked about this before with desegregation. When things were segregated, why did we have our own grocery stores? Why did we have our own banks? Why did we have our own schools? Why did we have our own hospitals? Because we were forced to, because we couldn't go to theirs. So I don't care how something feels. I care what are the results? What are the results? What puts us in the best possible position to be successful? That's what my mind focuses on. So, and excuse the noise in the background. It is what it is. It's the city. We downtown. Embrace it. So I want to talk about what Michelle. So Michelle was talking about how it's unfair because some people can afford tutors. And she was talking about how some people can afford even to have special coaches that allow them to run faster and gain certain athletic advantages over people. What? Like, so let's just look at that. Let's just look at this. Should we say that, oh, it's unfair for, let's say, more impoverished kids or let's just say black, for instance, let's say African-American kids. It's unfair because they grow up in more poverty. That means they have more, they have a better chance of doing a better college essay because their real world experiences are way more vivid and the story is just a greater story. So therefore we have to, they have to score higher on their essay. They have to do more in order to get the same. No, we would be looking at that like that's crazy. It's crazy. If you're a parent and you're wealthier and you can afford to pay a tutor, that's what we work hard for, to give our kids advantages in life so that they can put them in a position to where they can best succeed. That's on you. And I'm going to say that energy does not apply when it comes to Asians. As far as what I'm seeing, I don't see, maybe the Asians are doing a lot of the tutoring and stuff like that, but if they are doing it, I'm just throwing it out there, whether it's Asians or Indians, I bet you they're pooling a lot of their money and, putting their money together. Not that they're just super rich or whatever. Maybe they are. I don't know. They definitely making more than what we making, but they'll probably pool their resources and have a teacher come and teach maybe a few kids. Or what I would say, as far as with a lot of these parents, when it comes to Asian kids, you don't need no tutor. It's just as soon as you get home, where's your work? What did you have to do today? What did you learn? What's the homework? And make sure that you're caught up for next week. Their definition of caught up is to be a week ahead of the rest of the class. That's just effort and energy on behalf of the leadership in their home, their parents, because they have a higher standard. Their kids are not just throwing their backpack in the house and going out to play. Their kids not just throwing their backpack in the house and going to football practice and basketball practice or baseball practice or hockey practice or whatever it is. No, they are just locked in on schooling. So therefore, because they're just locked in and because they give more effort and have a higher standard, we think that it's fair for them to have to score higher. Like, that's insane to me. That's insane. Hold on. We got a question. Ling's got a question for us. Shout out to Ling. Good morning. Would you consider yourself to be an affirmative action legacy? No judgment, as you have applied yourself towards success. Yes, Asians do it differently, very high standards. I guess I would be. I don't have, and see, this is the thing. I think because a lot of people who sometimes when you benefit from something, you don't like calling out the negative aspects of it. I benefited in some way. So I benefited from an affirmative action legacy where my dad was able to get he was able to join a law firm. He was able to raise us well, grew up in a very nice neighborhood, middle-class neighborhood in Montclair, one of the dopest towns in the world, at least in America. And it was even better back then when I was growing up. So you can say I'm an affirmative action legacy. However, the stuff that I'm learning, the stuff that I'm doing now, I did not learn from my dad. Because my dad, because of affirmative action, he decided to join a firm. But if he didn't have affirmative action, then perhaps he would have been forced to start his own firm and learn how to run a business against all odds, learn how to do the marketing, learn how to do the selling, not just being an attorney. A lot of times we go into these professions, whether it's, I work with a lot of doctors, they're doctors. However, to have your own practice, you need to be an exceptional business person. Two totally different things, which is why a lot of the doctors' practices fail. So, of course, there's going to be benefits, and you can look at me as an affirmative action legacy, 100%. There's definitely a lot of pros to it. But I just can't look at something, and I think this is what a lot of people do. I can't look at something, oh, because this benefited me, that means that it's great for everybody. No, it benefited me in certain ways. Whereas, let's say if it didn't benefit me, let's say it benefited me in certain ways. However, my dad's ability may have been capped to the point where the day that he took that job working for a firm, instead of creating his own firm, he set himself up. And I'm sure he would say the same thing if he thought about it. You know, I'm not even sure if this is something he's thought about, but it set himself up to never have a business of his own, because it just developed a certain mindset to where what ends up happening, we say, oh, well, you know, I'll work for somebody else, you know, for a little bit. And then, you know, eventually I'll open up my own firm. A lot of times it doesn't happen like that, because what happened with him? He had kids. He may have got laid off at a certain job. So now it's like, oh, well, let me just get this job again, you know, get this job. And then, you know, next thing I'll have my own. Stuff happens. The best time to start his firm would have been fresh out of law school, maybe within that maybe 2 to 4 year range, maybe just within that first 2 years. So where he can afford to go through it, where he doesn't have the responsibilities to where he's accountable for a family. You get what I'm saying? So therefore, once he took that job, he didn't think about it at the time. He felt amazing. Hey, I'm joining the firm. This is great. But it also put a ceiling over him to where now he's going to work his entire life at a bunch of 9-to-5s, to where he doesn't have any ownership in it, to where he can't develop the skills that it requires to have your own business. And he'll never be able to pass that down to our kids. We talk about generational wealth in a lot of areas of conversations on this show. To have generational wealth, you got to own something. You got to own something. And this is a great point. That I'm glad that you brought up, Ling. I'm glad that you brought up this point, Ling, because we're going to touch on this show later, where the Breakfast Club with Vivek Ramaswamy, he went on there, and I was disgusted in how the Breakfast Club, Envy and Charlemagne, and this other lady on there, I'm not as familiar with her, how they treated Vivek. But I think this is a good segue to something that I was going to talk about with them. And it was, if you don't own it, you ain't build it. If you don't own it, you ain't build it. If you don't own the business, then you're not stable. We look at a 9-to-5 as providing some type of stability and being amazing. Yeah, that's based on where you come from. That's based on what you determine as success. However, which would you rather be? Would you rather be a high-level exec, let's say working for a Fortune 500 or just a solid company? Doesn't have to be a Fortune 500 company. You get your pension, you retire, and you're good. Or would you rather have maybe a small business that you own, that you grind out? Maybe your family members are working there, your mom, your dad, your kids. It's something that the family can get behind, to where you're growing something that can be passed on from generation to generation. What would we prefer? Yeah, that feels good. It feels comfortable to have the exec position because I got a nice salary, compared to running the business, running the bagel store down the street from me in Hackensack, where the whole family's there. All the family and friends, they're actually building something. They're grinding every morning. They're grinding to make sure that they keep up with the margins. They're grinding to make sure that they can cover everything, cover everybody, stay prepared in case a pandemic happens, in case this happens. It's a difference. That's uncomfortable, but that's going to create generational wealth. Referring to having your own company, your own bagel store, your own business, your own mechanic shop, your own plumbing company, all these different things that you're able to pass down. This over here, you're regarded as your friends, by your friends as you made it. You got a nice salary, but you can be fired at any moment. It could take one conversation with your boss. Maybe you walk in and he doesn't like your outfit, and it turns into something. And now you're no longer able to put food on the table because that man just came in or that woman just came in and said you're fired. So we got to start really looking at it as what feels good and what really is good. All right, so let's continue with this. So let's look at some of the different areas in which we talk about feeling good versus being good. And I want y'all to think about your personal lives. I'm going to do the same as I name these topics. Nutrition, our diet, what we eat. What happens when we eat the stuff that feels good, that tastes good, right? What happens when we eat that stuff compared to the stuff that is good and that will make us good and that will make us healthy, right? We can't just focus on the feel good. We got to focus on what's going to make me good. What's going to allow me to be good? Let's look at fitness. It's the simple areas. We all talk about how health and wellness is so important, right? So these are the simple categories. There's only a few different categories to life that we're really trying to be successful in. It's a few now. There's a bunch of different subcategories, but we looked at nutrition. We're looking at fitness. I don't know what type of workouts y'all do, but the best workouts that I do not feel good in the moment. It's a lot of pain. It's a lot of pain, shortness of breath, breathing heavy, all these different things. My legs are killing me. Feel like I'm about to pass out. Feel like I'm about to fall down. Doesn't feel good. But I know it's going to get me good. I know it's going to prepare me better. I know it's going to put my body, my temple in better shape. Feels good versus being good. Health. Come on now. We already talked about it. We're already talking about it. Professionally, we talked about what feels good. Oh, I just want a nice salary. I want to be able to, maybe have summers off or maybe have, make sure that I have my weekends to myself where I'm not working. Feels good. What is going to get you and your family good? I got to bust my ass every single day. Ain't no 9 to 5. I just keep working. I keep working until stuff gets done. I got to be the first one up. I got to be the last one to go to sleep. Work is on my mind because I'm building something. I'm building something. It's all on me. And this goes back to the conversation why I say, if it's somebody's private company, bro, you don't have the audacity for you to think that you can control who somebody hires in their private company. The one where they're staying up late. They're building with their family. And you're going to come in and say, hey, you got to have a quota here. Come on, bro, knock it off. Personally, what feels good? If personally we only did stuff that would feel good, we would never grow. We would never grow. We would never challenge ourselves. Any area in which we challenge ourselves from in a personal standpoint, it's going to come with discomfort. It's going to come with us stepping outside of our comfort zone, doing something new, not knowing, maybe failing, maybe tripping and falling, right? It's the same thing as a baby. If a baby will never fall if they never try to walk. But in order to walk, they got to keep trying, keep falling. Now, it may be more comfortable for the baby to just sit there and just lay there. However, to push ourselves and advance ourselves in any area, we have to get away from this feel-good mindset and move more into a result, purposeful, be-good mindset. Let's look at some of the adjectives. And I want y'all to tell me, what are some of the adjectives of feeling good? I just wrote down 3 for each. So when it comes to adjectives, let's say for feeling good, like what words just come to mind? I should say, what words come to mind? Comfort. When something feels good, it's soft, maybe gentle, right? All these different things. Smooth, maybe, I don't know. I said 3. I just threw the smooth in there. Comfort, soft, and gentle were mine. Now, what are some adjectives or words that come to mind for what it takes to be good? To be a good person, to be good in a particular thing, whatever that may be. Courageous, honorable, righteous, consistent, focused, disciplined, all these different things. Now, when you look at those different categories or the words that come to mind for those particular things, feeling good versus being good, what do you think is going to prepare us to be successful in society more? Comfort, being soft, being gentle, or being courageous, honorable, and righteous, and all those other things that I mentioned? We got to get away from thinking that something feeling good is the most rewarding feeling. Because even back to the workout doesn't feel good at the time. But when you finish that workout and you know you completed it, there are little, the harder something is to overcome something, when we actually do overcome it, there's no more rewarding feeling. And that is what needs to become addicting. Not the comfort of feeling good throughout the entire experience. No, embracing having to be rugged in order to get through something, having to overcome adversity, beat the odds, whatever they may be, and then still overcome it and be dead exhausted. Like what Nipsey said, with sweat dripping down it. I lift up a cigar with sweat dripping down our forehead because the mission was hard. Yo, that's what you want to celebrate. That's what needs to become addicting. The win, not feeling good while you're playing. The addicting feeling needs to be the win. Do whatever it takes to get the win. Or do whatever it is you feel like it. I don't know. But I'm just big on, when it comes to racism or discrimination, the best way to solve it is with open competition. If we think that the majority of companies are racist, instead of having a quota and hiring a DE&I team to go in there and tell them how, they were brought up the wrong way and how all this other stuff and how you have to accept people and make everybody feel included and all that. No. You want to get somebody's respect? If these companies are racist, start your own and beat them in their industry. If this bagel store is racist, then I'm starting my own and I'm going to beat them. And now they're going to be forced to respect me. They may not like me, but they're going to be forced to respect me as a competitor. And if they don't, then I'm just going to keep putting my foot on their neck and make sure that I take all their customers as well. And that applies to anything. To anything. Compete. We want respect. Let's compete. So let's get into this Breakfast Club interview a little bit. And I'm gonna try not to keep y'all too long. I know it's Friday. We usually stay on a little bit longer, but I should already have this queued up. Here we go. All right. And when y'all watching it, I want y'all to pay attention to the energy. Pay attention to the energy, because their energy is extremely different when it comes to Vivek as it is to some other people like Hillary and Joe Biden when Charlemagne was interviewing them, when the Breakfast Club was interviewing Hillary. The energy is so different. And Vivek, if you're not familiar with him, Vivek is a Republican candidate. He's Indian American. He's 37 years old, has run a bunch of successful companies in the medical industry and healthcare. He has already produced like certain patents for different medicines and stuff. Dude's impressive. He's impressive. He's had a lot of accomplishments. And he's willing to go on different shows, to go into, he went into a black neighborhood. He went to the barbershop. I believe he's in Chicago. He goes all these places. There's nowhere where he won't go. He'll go to liberal spots, conservative spots, this radical, that radical. He just comes to have conversations. And he always says, I'm an open book. Ask me a question, I'll answer it. So here you have this person who hasn't, think about it, Republicans have not traditionally received the black vote. But he's gone into these areas to where most Republicans wouldn't even have these conversations. They'd be scared to go on these platforms, just like a lot of Democrats scared to go on a lot of the conservative platforms. He's willing to go anywhere. So he's willing to actually have the conversation. And keep in mind, we have to remember, Democrats are the ones that we've always supported and clearly we haven't got as much as we needed to in return because we're still complaining about shit, right? We're still saying we're oppressed. Well, Democrats have had our loyalty for the longest. So what's up? Have y'all just failed? Or have y'all just not cared? So I'm just confused as to why the energy is this with Vivek and it's a little different with others. So let's get into this. All right, just pay attention to it. It's going to run for probably about 4 minutes. I may just let it run, interrupt it a little bit. Y'all know how I do. Let's do it.
Aspiring to them.
Now we have Teslin Figaro. I'm sure Teslin has some questions. Tez, you good?
Yes, I do.
Hold on, let me turn this up a little bit. Can y'all let me know if y'all can? Just want to make sure y'all can hear this. It's coming in. It was coming in a little low for me. So, all right, let's rock.
I do. So I've heard a lot of, what you think and your vision, and I'm a very practical person, and I want to kind of, opposed to talking about your opponents, let's talk about you for a moment, and let's actually talk about your policy. Explain to me your position on this civic duty voting.
Sure. So my position is, I think that every kid who graduates from high school should know the minimums about the country that we require an immigrant to know about the country in order to become a citizen. So there's a test. My mom had to pass it. Every immigrant has to pass it to this country that asks you some basic questions. What are the 3 branches of government? What branch of government does the U.S. president lead? Some basic questions about what is the Bill of Rights. It's like a multiple choice exam, or some of them you write in. I think that if we're going to ask immigrants to pass a test as have to pass of pride, you don't value a country that you don't know something about. You don't value something you inherit. You value something you have a stake in creating, in building, or knowing something about. So how do we think big about this? Well, young people, as I told you, most of them, very few of them vote as it stands today. Super small numbers. And apparently 60% of them say they would rather give up their right to vote than give up TikTok. Well, I say, all right, let's take that to the next level. How about we do something that raises the voting age from 18 to 25, but you still get to vote at 18 if you just pass that same civics test that an immigrant has to pass in order to vote. And tests aren't for everybody, so be it. Then you at least serve in the military or a first responder role for 6 months. That's my civic duty voting proposal. And the reason is, I'll actually make a prediction. I think youth voting in this country will skyrocket. From a very low level right now, it will skyrocket because you value something you actually have to earn. And I think that this is not a left-wing or right-wing point. We all have duties as citizens, right? We aspire to free market capitalism, right? Materialist advance. And that's the life I've lived as well, by the way. My parents came to this country with not a lot of money. I've lived the American dream. I've made a lot of money by building businesses. That's one side of what it means to be an American. But part of it is we also have duties to this country. And I think the more we wake that up, actually, the voting age only became 18 in 1971 in the context of the Vietnam draft. So I just think reviving those ideas is going to be good for us.
So
Let me just chime in there real quick. And when I muted my mic, I realized, next time I'm going to have to probably go close the doors because it'll be a little louder with the doors open. But neither here nor there. What Vivek said, I want y'all to pay attention to, because that's something that people don't value something that they get for free. People don't value something that they get for free. They value something that you have to pay for, which is why a lot of people, when they train certain people, it's not about, it's they will only train people if you put up a certain amount of money to train with them. If I pay, the more I pay for somebody to teach me something, the more invested I'm going to be in what I'm learning. So therefore I'm going to be able to implement more of what they're teaching and implement it in my day-to-day life, my skill set, add it to my tools. You get what I'm saying? When you feel that, something was just given to me, I just inherited it. You don't have that same type of feeling that you have is when you feel that you're a part of it.
Let's prove your point. Nick, our camera guy, do you know the 3 branches of the federal government?
Over 24, so it don't matter.
But I'm just saying, but nobody knows there are 24. Red, do you know the 3 branches?
Executive.
Well, I got a test. I would like to see if you're willing to pass, because I believe in, just as you believe in civic engagement, I believe in.
Just pay attention to her energy, yo.
changing the ideas of what political opponents look like, what they should look like, or political candidates. Are you willing to take a test with me quickly? Because I just have a couple of questions for you.
I will,
so-
absolutely.
so just-
and the way this is opening up, I have a feeling I'm about to fail it, but that's good. Let's do it.
That's right. Yeah.
That's
Just
right,
for
yeah.
clarity, I am an independent. I'm not a Democrat or a Republican.
Cool.
I think that's important for the premise of the argument, because I know you did a lot of debating at Harvard. I also want to make it clear these are the same questions that I asked liberal Democrat Marianne Williamson. So I want to make sure that we put that out there as well, just
Fair
to kind
enough.
of set the foundation.
I'm
for the
open
test.
to being humbled. Let's do this.
Okay, great. Let's go. So you mentioned, the pride of being an American and how important it is to have pride in this country. I'm also a veteran, by the way,
Thank you.
for the United States Air Force. So when is it that you voted for the first time?
I voted in 2020.
Okay, so you're how old again?
I'm 37 years old.
So for how many years you sat around and did not get involved at all in any civic engagement? Is that my understanding?
A long time is the answer. And actually, that's what I wrote this book about. I'm not holding myself out as some sort of model. I'm actually offering myself as a self-reflection of my journey as a citizen to whom this country has given much, right? As an adult, when you have kids, it changes your perspectives. I'm very honest about that. Absolutely.
Okay, no problem. So let's go deeper into the self-reflection. So you've sat around and sir, I'm being as respectful as I possibly can. Please don't take anything
And you don't even have to be. And you don't even have to be. So take it off. And
Y'all already know, man. If y'all read energy, come on, bro. Y'all already know when people start talking like that, you're not being as respectful as you can. Like, knock it off.
let's go.
So you've been sitting around in the country that my ancestors built for about 20 years. Your parents came over as immigrants, brought you over. You made
You've been sitting around in the country that my ancestors built. Yo, let's be clear. Let's be clear. I feel like I need to be clear on this again. Dear Black people, your ancestors, our ancestors, African Americans, indigenous people, whatever, didn't build shit. Our ancestors didn't build shit. You want to know why? Because they didn't own shit. I'm looking at my favorite building right here, the Aston Martin building. And a lot of people are probably turned off by what I just said, but bear with me. My favorite building in Miami, they're building this Aston Martin building. It's right on the water. I love it. It's right near like where I walk in the morning to kind of watch the sunrise. And every time I'm walking there in the morning, there's hundreds of construction workers, getting ready, either walking in the neighborhood towards the building or already there. Some are sitting around eating, just getting ready to start their day. Those construction workers, sorry, I'm not sorry. Y'all ain't build shit. And bear with me. You may have little B built it, but you didn't build it. Aston Martin built that building. And I want us to understand the importance of that. That goes back to when I was even talking about my dad. Just because you're an employee of something somewhere does not mean that stop associating the business's success with your success. And why am I saying that? Because I think we need to take more pride in that bagel store owner who has their own business, more pride in the plumber who has his own business, more pride in the mechanic who has his own business, more pride in them, the barber that has his own business, compared to just working for a larger, more glamorous business. If you don't own it, you ain't build it. Y'all may disagree with me. Y'all may say, well, they're the ones putting the floors down, putting the windows up. Okay, cool. Okay, cool. So if you build something, anything that I build, I should be able to take from it, right? I should be able to earn off of it. Those construction workers they're paid a certain amount that has nothing to do with when that building is up and running. They're not receiving a percentage of based on, who buys a condo. No, there's a difference. And I hate when people sit around here and say like, oh, in the country that my ancestors built, bro, okay, all right. So we built the country, right? We were that important to build the country. We were that important to build the country, but now we're doing the worst. Make it make sense. Make it make sense. If we could build the country, then why can't we built this country? Why can't we make it make sense? Why are we at the bottom? Literally. If we built it, get out of this mindset celebrating you participating in something. Jerry Jones built the Cowboys. I don't care how good Michael Irvin is, Troy Aikman, Emmitt Smith. I don't care. Let's get all of them in a room. Let them all walk in a room, and then let Jerry Jones walk in the room. Who built the Cowboys? Jerry Jones never played a down of football, but because he owns it, he built it. So Ling wrote, her ancestors have sweat equity, not a legal tender. I don't call it whatever they want. They got slave. Our ancestors have slave equity, I guess. It's not sweat equity. It's not sweat equity, because sweat equity, as far as what I'm concerned, is you put in sweat equity and you get ownership of the company. That's your contribution to have ownership. So therefore, let's say, Ling, you and I are starting a business. You may have put up a certain amount of money that you have, but you don't want to necessarily run the day-to-day operations as much. So I come in and I say, listen, I'll run the day-to-day operations. That'll be my sweat equity into having ownership. We do not have ownership. We could say, oh, because it was unfair, because it was this and that. It is what it is. It is what it is. It may be unfair. It may be not right, but we got to stop always living on this, patting on ourselves on the back. We built this. No, what we built were all the Black Wall Streets around the country. What we built were the cities that we had in Tulsa, the cities that we had in Rosewood, the cities that we had across North Carolina, the cities that we had in Chicago. We built those neighborhoods. We built those. Why? Because we own it. Why? Because we owned the grocery stores. We owned our homes. We owned the banks. We owned the doctor's offices. We owned the attorney offices. We owned the mechanic shop. We owned the plumbing company. We owned the barber shop. We owned the salon. We owned the corner store. We owned the gas station. I don't know the gas station. I don't know if they had gas stations back then, but if they did, we could say they owned the gas stations. So there's a difference. There's a difference. But let me keep going. But I just wanted to make that point. My apologies. My apologies for going in. Shout out Best G. Best G is in the building. Dasim Nasir.
Billions, according to your resume, off of this country, and you have absolutely not been involved in civics. One, not voting, and two, let me just ask, because I know you mentioned earlier you don't want to sit around at the debate and talk about accomplishments. Let's make the accomplishments pretty simple. In high school, were you ever a class president or take any leadership role? Because your opponent did, Chris Christie. He was the class president. So have you ever taken any leadership at all on anything, or just?
Can I just correct a couple factual things that are kind of important? My parents didn't bring me.
In high school, were you at the debate not voting? And two, let me just ask, because I know you mentioned earlier,
shoulders
you
and
don't want to
everything.
sit
Like
around at the debate and talk about
relax, shorty.
Let's make the accomplishments pretty simple. In high school, were you ever a class president or take any leadership role? Because your opponent did, Chris Christie. He was the class president. So have you ever taken any leadership at all on anything, or just?
Can I just correct a couple factual things that are kind of important? My parents didn't bring me over to the country. I was born in this country, and I'm proud of that.
No, I know you were born here in Ohio.
Yeah.
Ohio.
You mentioned my parents.
I'm saying your parents were immigrants. My apologies.
That's all right. You said your parents brought you over to this country. I thought I
my
would set that
apologies.
record straight.
I mean, they were immigrants, but let's not go down the water hole.
No, we're not going to water. I just want to correct a couple facts, and then the other thing is
you were born here in Ohio.
I was born in Cincinnati, Ohio. That's right.
Right. So you've been here your entire life. So the question is, did you take any leadership role in middle school?
You see how she tried to just disregard it? Like, well, let's not go down. Yeah. What? As y'all can see, y'all may not even be feeling as offended by her as me. I saw the whole thing, so it is what it is. I recommend y'all watch the whole thing. Go ahead.
High school class president.
I did.
I know you played tennis. What is it? Explain it to us.
Student council. But I think that this is Yes, I've held leadership roles over my life, but those don't qualify me to do what I'm doing now.
Yeah,
That's
it kind of
just-
does.
Okay,
well, it
well,
kind of does. Well, I'm giving the test. I'm the test
Okay,
administrator.
all right, there you go.
So it kind of does, because when you go from saying I want to go to the highest office,
And I'll tell
of
you,
the land-
I've led companies as well. Is the other leader?
Right,
The
well,
main leadership
right, but-
role I've played is and I want to talk about one early part of your premise that I also want to say,
Mm-hmm.
to bring it to the country point. The other point, you use the word sitting around. You know, I'm not somebody who's saying I want the next generation, my kids' generation, to have more civic duties when they graduate from high school and college than I did when I did. That being said, I wasn't sitting around. I've developed medicines, 5 of which are FDA-approved products today, one of which is a life-saving therapy in kids, 20 of whom die by the age of 3 if they're not treated, 70% of whom now live lives of a normal duration. Another one for prostate cancer. So I don't apologize
excuse
for
me,
making
sir.
contributions. But
right. Well, I don't want you to filibuster that
No worries.
because
Just
that's
not
not
sitting-
the question that I asked. And I don't consider, as a veteran, I'm talking about service. I'm not talking about what you
Civic
did for
service,
profit. I'm not talking about what you paid people to do with
Yeah,
your
so I
company.
have
I'm
not
not talking
served-
about
I have not
that,
served the country
because that
in the way
means
you have.
nothing to me.
You do
what I'm
realize
talking,
she
what
hasn't
I
been
am
able to ask a question. She's been trying to
Go
ask
for
a
it,
question,
yeah.
and you've been talking over her.
I'm
and
all ears.
We gave you the platform to let you say
Seems a
what
little
all
you
ears.
said.
defensive.
I'm all ears. No,
she
no,
hasn't-
I was
she
just
hasn't-
correcting a couple
She hasn't had a chance
facts,
to
that's
ask a
all.
question yet. Every
Go
time
ahead,
she
Ted.
tries to
Listen to these cornball, Charlemagne and him and I go back and forth, like texting and stuff. Charlemagne, this is corny, bro. This is cornball shit. Envy, this is cornball shit. Like, y'all are corny as hell, bro. We are here to listen to him. He's making things, she's saying certain things that he has to correct her on. And she's clearly trying to bully him and be like that. Come on, bro. Come on, bro. And she's not able to answer. Shut up. Y'all have more energy. Y'all are more. What's so funny is their energy is more aggressive towards Vivek than it is towards these goofy ass rappers that are putting this terrible message in our community. Their energy is more aggressive towards Vivek than it is towards these rappers that they have on their show that are putting dumbass energy out there, destructive energy out there. It's corny as hell what they're doing. It's cornball shit. Cornballs.
ask a question. You've been cutting her off. Go ahead, Ted.
I'm all ears.
Right. So your question, so my question again is, you're trying to, your goal is to raise the standard, and you're saying you want people to believe in country and you want people to have civic engagement. And sir, I just find it very telling that you haven't had any civic engagement at all and haven't been at all. And when I say sit around, I don't mean you haven't done anything. I'm talking about in regards to service, because one thing about political office, the same way that you want to change how people look at politics and look at this country, I want to change how people look at politicians. And when I see that someone hasn't did anything at all to be of service to mankind, to take a leadership role, it's not good enough to just be on city student council. Were you a leader? All of that applies. Have you been able to get anybody in the room at any time, from a high school gymnasium to Ohio, Republican leadership there to now? Have you been able to get anybody in a room to believe in this vision? I don't agree with a lot of your vision statement, but I do know you've been going around having these discussions and getting everybody emotionally worked up to talk about vision and debate. But I want to get to the practical. You're trying to go from preschool to president of the United States. You're skipping over city council, county council, mayor, governor. You want to go straight to the top. So my question is, this a PR? Is this for the PR, the perception of reality? Or can you point to any leadership where you've been able to get people to believe in what you're talking about that they're not paid to do on any of these vision statements that you have? If not, then to me, it's a moot point, because you're holding a standard that you haven't met yourself.
So if you're only going to count government service, you're
No,
absolutely
not government
right.
service.
Okay.
Student council in the 8th grade, 9th grade, 10th. Were you
Yeah.
a leader? Did you do anything to rally anybody? Did you fight for better lunch? I did in the 6th grade with Miss Harris.
Yeah.
I'm not talking about government. I can go all the way back from the 5th grade every year, sir, because people who are in service to this country, if you're going to go around saying you want people to believe in this country that I signed up to die for, then I want to make sure that you're holding that same standard. So not government, not political. Let's not get it confused.
Hey,
I'm
yo,
saying, have you did anything of
Yo, man. Some of y'all military people need to chill out, yo. Some of y'all military, I'm interested to see now. I'm gonna look up exactly what she did, talking about that she signed up to die for. Yo, let me just keep going. Because some of y'all, never mind. Let me not do that.
service that we can point to say he is a good leader, like Chris. And I'm not even a fan of Chris Christie, but he was the student council president in high school. So have you done anything of service besides yourself that has not benefited yourself? It's just a simple question.
So the acts of service that I have performed are.
Have you done anything of service that doesn't benefit yourself? Does anybody do anything of service that doesn't benefit themselves that runs this country? Does she do anything that doesn't do most people that enter the military do it just for the country? Would they do it if they didn't get paid? What do you mean that you're not doing it for self? There's always a certain aspect of what we're doing. I don't care how amazing you doing a turkey drive. Yeah, well, that's you doing that a little bit for yourself too. Make yourself feel better about it. Because if not, then you wouldn't need to take video of it and post it. You giving that man $5, the homeless guy. Yeah, you're doing it to make yourself feel better in a lot of ways. So let's, and not to say there's anything wrong with it, but she's been a little disingenuous.
Are small, so small that I don't even want to talk about them to boast. But yes, have I volunteered for this country? Yes, I have. I've always been interested in healthcare.
It's okay to talk about the small things.
I mean, these are small things, right? But thank you.
Let's just mention.
Hey, can my man answer the question?
No, it's not.
Can my man answer the question?
No, it's just something I don't like boasting about. I volunteer.
We're not boasting. It's an interview. You're boasting on your vision and everything else.
I think
you boasted on the millions of dollars that you made. So let's just throw it out. So in sixth grade, I'll give you an example. I'll help you out. In sixth grade, Miss Harris was slapped. Let me give you an example because maybe you're confused.
You boasted on the money that you made. You asked him what he's been doing after accusing him of just sitting around in the country that your ancestors built. He simply responded in a way that he's been able to, he's been afforded an opportunity to live the American dream, run successful companies, yes, be successful in making money, but now you're trying to make it seem they be playing games.
In the sixth grade, Miss Harris was snatching papers from everybody in the classroom. So me as a 10-year-old, I went to the principal and said, I'm tired of Miss Harris snatching papers. And I organized the students around getting Miss Harris to stop snatching papers. Now, there was a consequence for that. I got suspended for 5 days for talking back, and I got in trouble. I got a spanking, and I was on punishment for months and months. But that is a simple way of organizing people. So I want you to kind of boast about it the way you did the millions of dollars and said what you did with the pharmaceutical companies. What leadership can you point to that you've been able to rally anybody around anything that is of service that you did not pay anybody to do? I think that's important for the next president of the United States.
Sure. So
am I confused, or do people that enter the military not get paid? I'm sorry. If military leadership, are y'all not getting paid? Or you're not paying people? The people that you lead? I'm confused.
I've always been drawn to healthcare. That's why I ended up founding companies in that space. When I was in high school, part of what drew me into it was that I was a volunteer at a local hospital. I actually became the leader of that group of volunteers that actually discharged women who had recently given birth. That was it. Nothing big to it.
Did you do anything we can point to stand out?
But I want to say something about that because I say that in the book.
Did you do anything to stand out? What is going on? Did you do anything to stand out? Oh, you were helping women with their birth. Did you do anything to stand out?
Look, if I'm being really honest, why did I do that in high school? A part of the motivation, I'll be just brutally honest with you, was that's actually what allowed.
Bez, you feel me on this, Bez? This is wild. This is wild. I got to read these comments. Ling, what's popping, Ling? Agreed. It wasn't a legal tender. The failure was the inability to value the contribution. This is what we were talking about earlier as far as ownership. Payment for participation was $50 billion in government programs. In my opinion, blacks traded their sweat. Ooh, Ling. All these government programs. And now people sitting around asking for reparations. Well, shit, what you think these government programs were? We're fighting for those. Oh, because they didn't work. Now we need a different type of reparations. Oh, okay. I was just checking. As a gold star mother, 2010, the constant mention of veteran status is galling. Yo, facts. Like, she's doing too much. That's why I said, like, yo, somebody look into it, because I feel like the people that I know, limited people in my limited life, the people that really served and really was over there in the trenches, in the thick of it, don't like to talk about it. Don't like to, oh, I did that. Yeah. Don't like to. So I don't know. Maybe I'm off. Ling. Unfortunately, it's understandable why so many of quote unquote these women are single, angry, and alone. Ling, I'm right there with you. Unfortunately, it's understandable why so many of these women are single, angry, and alone. She's trying to put on a show. She's trying to belittle him. She's trying to make him look bad rather than just interviewing him, rather than getting questions. She's trying to prove that she's superior to him in whatever type of way. In the country that my ancestors built, you were just sitting around. All right, your ancestors built it. What y'all got now? That's not something to brag about. You built the shit and you ain't got shit. We built the shit, right? Our ancestors built the shit and we ain't got shit. So how disrespectful have we been to our ancestors? The fact that we don't take advantage of our opportunities. All we do is take advantage of these stupid government programs that we beg for, that cripple us. Just like I was talking about earlier with the football players in college. When you go to these big time school programs and you get all these advantages, you got the note takers, the paper writers, extra time on the test, people that are in position, they hire people to actually just help the kids academically, and it cripples them. And that's why so many of these football players, when they try to transition outside of football, their standards have been so low in anything else outside of football that they aren't able to transition properly, because they've been crippled. So it's the same thing in this situation. We're crippling people with these government programs. We're crippling them. But what did Bez write? LOL, she just really brought up some second grade nonsense. Yo, this is ridiculous. And Charlemagne and Envy goofy asses are just standing there like not saying anything. But you wanted to play Superman, Envy, when it came to him trying to explain something. Oh, she's not letting you ask the question. Well, her question was flawed. Her question said that my parents brought me over here. Flawed. Her question was insinuating different things that he had to address. Because if he doesn't address them, then people listening like us will just say, oh, we'll just assume it is true.
Allows you to get into a good college when you graduate.
Right.
You want
So
to check
it was
the box
about, so it was about you.
So
it was about self.
So there's and I'm admitting that in a way that very few other people do, but I got to be honest about it. That was a big part of why I did it.
Yeah, it was about self, and I'm going to be honest, and I'm going to give it back to the guys.
I'm
going to be honest about it with you.
Yep.
Leadership is not about self.
I agree with you on that.
What I just heard is that everything is about you. And to be honest with you, this is just a PR campaign, sir. To be honest with you, and I think you're trying to go further to the right because you want the Republicans to accept you as a man.
Hold up. Because this man just admitted that him, like so many other students in high school, the real reason why we do community service is because it looks good on the college application. Because of that, he's not a leader. And she tried to connect that in high school with him being honest enough to say it, with rather than just saying what would make us feel good. He's being honest with us and direct. And she's saying, oh, because of that, him running for president is just a PR stunt. This is so disrespectful, bro. So disrespectful. I don't know who she is, but let's go back a little bit. Disrespectful.
Brutally honest with you, was part of the motivation was that's actually what allows you to get into a good college when you graduate. Is you want to check the box of community service.
So it was about you.
So there was an element.
About self.
So there's that, and I'm admitting that in a way that very few other people.
Why is she cutting him off while he's speaking, bro? Show some respect, bro. Acting like a bird.
Do, but I got to be honest about it. That was a big part of why I did it.
Yeah,
when
it
I
was about
graduate,
self, and I'm going to be honest, and I'm going to give it back to the guys.
if I
I'm
can-
going to be honest about it with you.
Yep.
Leadership is not about self.
I agree
And
with
so
you on that.
What I just heard is that everything is about you. And to be honest with you, this is just a PR campaign, sir. To be honest with you, and I think you're trying to go further to the right because you want the Republicans to accept you as a man of color. And I think the only way you think you can do that is to be so extreme.
I appreciate your opinion.
with your positions, and I think you need to do a little bit more work in service. I'll give it back to
Let
you
me,
guys.
let me,
You
let me,
failed the
let me
test,
ask,
by the
because she
way.
did ask me a question, and then you guys said you wanted to hear a response, but I think I heard.
Yo, why are there women like this? Like I'm going off script because I wasn't. I told myself I wouldn't even address it like this. Why are there women like this? And I'm glad you called it out, Ling. Her behavior is super inappropriate. Her behavior, she's trying to act like, oh, I'm gonna dominate this man. I'm gonna speak over him. I'm gonna get my point off. I'm gonna get off whatever I need to get. Like, yo, this is disgusting. Disgusting. Can't stand, man. Let me.
An expression of opinion. So just, I want to make sure you're all done before I respond to it.
Go ahead.
No,
all
just
set?
wanted to say that even then, I would still want you to point out, even at the hospital, something that you did that made you stand out on when actually taking a leadership role. But you already answered it. You said you did it because it was a motivation to get in college.
Exactly.
Which means
and
it was
I'm being
about
very
you.
honest about that. But
everything has been about you. So as
Let
a
me-
veteran,
let me
as
tell
a
you
veteran,
something. I
it's
appreciate
very
this-
hard for me to follow leaders that make everything about them. So you might want to work on that because it's a lot of veterans and Republicans. So you might want to work on that talking point and maybe do some volunteering while you're on the campaign trail. I'm going to give it back to Charlamagne and Envy.
Yeah.
Some
Disgusting.
volunteering while you're on the
Look
campaign
at
trail.
how she
I'm gonna
turns
give it
her
back
head.
to Charlamagne
Just
and Envy.
just disrespectful in every single way. This is disgusting, bro. This is a bad representation of us, our community.
Yeah. Once I want to be respectful. Want to make sure you got everything you wanted to on the table before I
But no,
I
got
respond to
plenty.
that.
And all she's doing is making him look good. All she's doing, based on how she's carrying herself, is making rational people look at him as, damn, yo, if that was me, I would have went off on her. Like, damn, he's able to just sit there and kind of just take that. Like, it's just making him look good. She's so irrational. It makes him look maybe more rational than he would if she would just ask the questions and allow him to just answer it.
Go ahead.
If this was just
Go ahead,
us,
go ahead.
it would be a lot more on
You
the
guys tell
table.
me. I'm the guest on your show. You tell me when I'm good to speak.
Go ahead,
Go ahead, sir.
Go ahead.
You sure? You sure about that? If we're good.
Yeah, we're sure.
So I think there's a different worldview that we have. And I think the worldview is how one actually makes contributions in a country. I do not believe that there's a separate category of just if you're serving the country and then if you're acting in self-interest, that that's somehow sinful or wrong. I reject that vision. To the contrary, I think capitalism is the best system known to man to lift people up from poverty. I deeply respect and I thank you for your service to this country. I'm grateful for it. I haven't served the country in the way that you have. But I think that the way you get ahead in capitalism, how did I develop a multi-billion-dollar biotech company? It was by developing medicines that save people's lives.
A lot of people say capitalism causes poverty.
Yeah, I disagree with that.
Okay.
I disagree with that. I think that
A lot of people would say, how about you say it, Charlamagne? If that's how you feel, how about you say it and stand on it instead of taking this little punkish approach? A lot of people would say this. A lot of people say a lot of stuff. Are you saying it? Because if you're saying it, then you're forced to stand on it and present certain evidence around your argument. A lot of people would say capitalism causes poverty. What are you saying? These clowns, bro. How do these clowns get these shows, bro? How do these clowns get these shows? Like, for real, I'm better. Like, yo, Charlamagne is, yo, how do these clowns that come on here that push all this destructive energy, goofiness, all they do is talk about goofy shit. And then when they have a serious conversation with a potential presidential candidate or a presidential candidate, it just goes left. And Vivek, bro, I got to do better. I got to do better. I got to do better. There's no excuse for Envy and Charlemagne to have this type of platform. And you know what? Just like I said earlier, if I want, I create my own. Create my own. Build it up. Compete. I'm sorry. I'm going off on a tangent. This is how my mind works. I just can't stand clowns. This is clownish, bro. Clownish.
Capitalism demands that you provide something to someone that helps them more than you're actually charging them for it. That's the only way.
That's
the
a
tried and
business
true
model,
way
sir. That's
it
not
is a business
service.
model. It's not, I'm not
That's
saying
not
it's
service.
I'm saying it's
But
having
see,
an impact on a society.
An elected official is service. That's the disconnect.
That's right. So
that you're
now,
missing that they didn't teach
I'm
you.
moving on to
Sit your ass down. The United States of America is a business. This is why business-minded people like a Trump can come in. You may not like him, but look at some of the stats while he was president. This is what separates people from, you get these people that say everything that sounds good, these politicians that's politically correct. You know, they've been through the entire system. They've been groomed to speak like this and walk like this and talk like. This country is a business. Everything is business. Everything is business. Everything is business. He sounds goofy.
moving on to there are phases of our lives where we do different things.
Well, you're moving straight all the way up to President of the United States.
You know, I don't view it as a hierarchy. I don't view it as a hierarchy. I don't believe in hierarchies. The hierarchy is the way the bureaucracy works. I don't believe in so we have a difference in opinion.
You also don't believe in service, and that's where we're having a disconnect.
Well, I disagree with you on that.
You know,
I just disagree with you on that.
I do think it's whack that you're proposing to revoke voting rights for 18 to 24-year-olds unless they meet certain qualifications, but you never exercised your rights.
Well,
I think it's whack. This is how you talk to somebody? Yo, black people, we are clowns. And I said I was going to stop calling us black. Maybe black is the right term for us. We are so disgusting how we allow, and I'm not talking about all black people, but the representation that we allow on these major platforms, the representation of us, it's embarrassing. This is pitiful. I think it's whack that listen to this clownish, like, and she's interrupting attitude. Like
that. You know, I just disagree with you on that.
I think it's whack that you're proposing to revoke voting rights for 18 to 24-year-olds unless they meet certain qualifications, but you never exercised your rights. Well, so long.
So most young people don't, is the whole point. Well, so, Charlamagne, let me ask you a question. Do you think the
largest voter turnouts have been over the last couple of elections, few elections?
They still voted at a very low rate. But let me ask you a question. What do you think about high school students being required to pass the civics test? What's your perspective on that?
The one that you proposed?
The one that every immigrant has to pass in order to enter the country. If every high school student has to pass that before they graduate, what's your take on that?
I don't think there's anything wrong with it.
Okay, good. Now let me tell you something about the law as it exists today. Men in this country, not women, but men are required by law to register with the Selective Service, age 18 to 25. That's the draft. We don't have a draft, but men have to register. If you don't, they put you in prison. At least they can. It's a criminal offense if you don't. My view is I would decriminalize that. I don't like the government telling you what you can and cannot do. That's not the American way. But if you want to enjoy the civic privilege of voting, then I think it is perfectly legitimate to say you have to at least know something about the country or have served that country, one or the other. Absolutely. Now, I think that what do we actually care about, right? What do we...
At first he said it's whack, but he agreed that every high school student should be able to pass this test, or he had no problem with it. So if you can pass the test, then you're good to vote.
We can do the personal attack thing.
We
care about the country. We care about the country.
The cornerstone of democracy, though.
Voting is the cornerstone of democracy. I have not.
Sir,
yeah, that's right. And you know, here's the thing. Here's the thing that's different.
Sir, excuse me, because this is important. We have to pause it. This is not.
Interrupt me respectfully. Yo, this is just a bad look. This is a bad look. This is worse than I initially. I'm not gonna say it was worse because when I first saw this, When I first saw this, it just made me uncomfortable.
Here's the thing that's different
sir,
is,
sir, excuse me, because this is important. We have to pause there. This is not a personal attack.
That's okay.
This is you, and I know that as a Republican, you are certainly not soft. So this is not a personal attack.
Yeah,
this
I'm
is
okay with
asking
attacks,
about
too.
this is about asking about your background and how it correlates, how it's relevant to saying you're going to serve this country, because president is actually
So I have been an
serving
open book
country.
in the last
No,
3 years.
yeah, I know,
Absolutely.
and I'm going page by page.
And
but
I'm
it's not
saying
an
that I
attack.
have not-
I'm gonna let you finish.
Yep.
But I want to be clear, it's not an attack.
Okay.
Because you've been an open book, but that doesn't mean I have to
I'ma
like
let
what's
you
on the
finish.
page.
That's fair
But
enough.
it's not an attack. I'm just reading the book.
Yep.
And so when I hear somebody say you need to get to either pass this test or do some type of service to the country, and I spend hours looking, you were in the Phi Beta Kappa. Did you have a leadership role in college, the honor roll? When somebody sets service as the standard and they've done no service except to themselves, that's a fair question. It's a question.
That's
and
a
you
fair
just
question.
So I've been on the, I mean, look, I was on I was on high school student council. Yes, absolutely.
Were you a leader? Were you a leader?
I was a vice president of my high school student council. Absolutely. I was the
Okay.
president of the
Okay,
National
great.
Honor Society. I can go down the list. It's just that these
That's
are
what I
not-
was asking you to do. Go down the
Absolutely.
list. But
So
proceed.
I was a president of the National Honor Society. I was the vice president of my student council. I was a lead amongst the volunteers at the hospital where I served growing up. I was actually a leader in volunteer research over the summers. From my senior
But
year,
all of that, but you already admitted all of that was to get into college.
not
but
all
go
of
ahead.
it, but I am admitting it. I think that
I know
it's
that's
it's important.
self-service, though. I just do
A
you
lot of
understand the
that-
difference
a
between
lot of-
self-service
and
and
I think
service?
the reality is, and I think we just
Yo, who? All right, so the most serviceable position should be. I would love to actually know what religion she's a part of, because I'm gonna tell you, you would think that the most selfless, serviceable position is, let's say, like a religious leader. Why do we give 10% to the church or a certain amount of money in tithes? Why do we give that? If it's just service, it's just service. Do that shit for free, right? Do it for free. Do it for free. So I'm so confused as to why she keeps bringing this up as if it's delusional in a lot of ways. It's delusional for her to think that the people, I don't care if she's a veteran or not. You think that those veterans are just doing it to provide a service to their country, or are they also doing it for a paycheck, which they deserve? It is what it is. People love basketball, but that doesn't, they rather get paid to do it. So I'm just a little confused as to why she thinks that these people, I don't know, in these positions don't get paid or whatever.
just all have to be more honest. When
We
many
do.
high school students are serving today, not all of them, but I think let's smoke it out. I don't like that structure where we actually
No,
mix
and I don't like the
service with
structure.
self-interest.
And I don't like the structure of somebody saying somebody need to give service as a veteran. I don't like the structure of somebody
That's
going
fair,
to the
we can
highest
disagree.
office of the land and have not served anybody
Bro, is it just me? Are y'all peeping how many times she's cutting him off?
at any time unless it was self-serving. So this is where we just have two different ideologies. And I know your
and here's
goal
my
was to come here and
perspective.
get into.
Here's
yeah,
my
I know.
perspective.
That's why
Let
we
me-
got
let me
different
sh-
Remember,
perspectives.
two guys, you got to leave in 5 minutes. I know.
Hold on,
I'll let them wrap
Yeah.
up.
I know.
Let me just say one thing is here's my vision of the run for presidency. And this is why I say I'm an open book is my job is to make sure people in this country know who I am and what I stand for. And I think that very few politicians on either party actually get that job done. So what I say is I'm an open book about who I am and what I stand for. Whether the people of this country want to vote for me, that's their question, not mine. That's their job to determine, not mine. And you're free not to vote for me. I expect you won't, and that's okay. But I'm doing my job in the 3 books I've written over the last year, in the conversation I'm having with you guys, being far more honest than any politician that I know in the last 10 years in this country. And I think when I say we want to fix corruption, you don't know what the first step is? The first step is actually people being honest. So you guys know me. You know what I stand for. I haven't hit back on that.
do you
Whether
wanna
people in
unite
this
the
country
country?
want to vote for it, that's their choice.
Do you want to unite the country?
I do want to unite the country.
So why is like one of your marquee campaign proposals making sure black people can no longer benefit from affirmative action?
See, here's the thing. It's actually
Here
been
comes
a
the
disastrous
goofiness.
experiment over the last 60 years. I've seen the
Here comes the goofiness. And notice, let's hear what Charlemagne has in response to this. It's like they are just trolls. This is where that Smith and Mundt Act, they are being controlled, and that with the propaganda and the government being able to relay information to a lot of these news outlets. Y'all should look into that. Whatever. They are being controlled by liberal media. This is why they got so offended when Dame Dash came up here and said, you got to own it, you got a boss, you ain't talking all that boss stuff. They got offended because they know that they have to say certain things. They have to present things in a certain type of way. They have to appeal to a certain group. They can't just say what's on their mind. They can't just say what's real to them.
Impact that it's had. Unlike a lot of other executives,
no longer benefit from affirmative action.
see here,
One of your marquee campaign proposals, making sure black people can no longer benefit from affirmative action.
see, here's the thing. It's actually been a disastrous experiment over the last 60 years. I've seen the impact that it's had. Unlike a lot of other executives, I've had senior executives in my company who happen to be black, senior executives in my campaign who happen to be black. I actually went to a majority or close to majority black school 1st through 8th grade. There isn't a single one of those black kids or black colleagues that could not have achieved everything I have in my life. I firmly believe that to be true. And I have seen the unfair discrimination behind closed doors, the things that people will say behind closed doors, about somebody who would have had that position anyway, but was unfairly tarred with the taint of saying they got it because of a race-based quota system. I think that's unjust to everyone across the board. And I think the right way to do this is actually ensure equality of opportunity, educational access at an early age, which, by the way, we don't have in this country, starting at an actual young age. How about doing that in a way that's agnostic to race? That way we prevent seeing one another on the basis of a color of our skin, but we actually solve the real inequalities that we have when it starts with inequality of opportunity, starting with education. So my view is, I think my approach is actually going to be more successful in lifting up more black Americans than have been the Lyndon Johnson approach of actually using race-based quota systems.
So if the Supreme Court does rule on affirmative action and they do ban it, who do you feel it benefits versus who it hurts?
I think that it helps everyone if they end race-based affirmative action in college admissions. I think it will literally help everyone in different ways because it restores merit in the United States. Are we perfect in ensuring equality of opportunity? No, we're not. The fact that kids are trapped by the zip code in which they're born, determining where they go to school, is a problem, which is why I favor universal school choice in this country, which has actually done more to help black Americans than has any affirmative action program.
What's your thoughts on people saying that you got Don Lemon fired?
I think that the New York Times reported that.
Notice how they have no response to anything. Charlemagne said, you claim that you want to unite the America. So how does you wanting to unite the country? Like, how is that supported by you wanting to end affirmative action with black people, with race being included in affirmative action decisions? Vivek went on, gave his whole thing as far as the last 60 years. He thinks it's been a failed experiment, told exactly why. Charlemagne has nothing to respond to. That's how you know you just spewing talking points. If you really believe it, then stand on it. Where's your pushback? Where's your pushback? Talk about the benefits of affirmative action. Talk about all these things. But instead, there's no substance there. There's no substance. Charlemagne doesn't know about this type of stuff when it comes to government. I spoke to Charlemagne. He said he just got into politics like a few years ago. Just started understanding it. Like, certain people are not qualified to have these conversations. So instead of just saying that, they try to just spew talking points from one particular side rather than actually doing the research. Anything that I say, I'll stand on it. I'll bring up support. I'll research it. Or I'll just say, or I just won't comment and try to belittle somebody else by pushing somebody else's agenda. I'm not going to push somebody else's agenda unless I stand on it. It goes back to the same thing when Charlemagne was like, well, some people would say that capitalism causes poverty. Do you believe that? Stand on it. No substance. All they do is just corny.
Had an open debate with Don Lemon with this, what CNN wanted to do. I think the affirmative.
Now he's talking. Now Envy asking, well, what do you think about you getting Don Lemon fired? Don Lemon was, bro. If that interview got him fired, then he was already on his way out anyway. And that's what you get. Maybe you should start your own, because Don Lemon been pandering to whoever he needed to pander to in order to keep his job for years. So maybe it's the best thing for him. And
Action program.
What's your thoughts on people saying that you got Don Lemon fired?
I think that the New York Times reported that. I had an open debate with Don Lemon. What CNN wanted to do with that is their choice. My view is, though, we need to start saying in public the things that people are otherwise saying in private. There's a gap right now in the country. Let's admit it. Democrat, Republican, it doesn't matter.
Be careful with that, because a lot of people in your party going to start saying nigga out loud.
I don't think so, actually, and I would certainly hope not. I would condemn it if they do. I would condemn it if anybody does.
Take the what and leave it. What are you talking about, bro? What are you talking about? What is going on? Like, where did that even come from?
I think is we need to close the gap between what people say in private and what they say in public. That allows us to air our differences, and then we actually find unity that way. That's actually what I think unites the country, not creating this culture of hush-hush, right? Say one thing in public and a different thing in private. And I do reject Don Lemon's premise. What did he tell me on set? He said, you can disagree with me when you have black skin and...
And so what if somebody call you a nigga, Charlamagne? If a white person say it, it's their word, right? It's their word. That's how you let pretty much Biden call your ass a nigga. When he disrespected you, that entire interview was so trivial in his responses to you. You ain't black unless you vote for me. Like, I'm not taking this interview serious with you, nigga. And I'm going to play that part later on. So y'all tell me the same thing. We just so freely just throw the word out there to everybody else. Shoot, if you got an issue with somebody saying nigga, then you address it. If not, leave it alone. But for him to just bring up that now Republicans are going to be out here saying it, bro, this.
You've lived in this country, whatever ethnicity you are. Explain it
sir,
to me. I just reject that.
Not,
I think we should.
Sir, let's just use a real example of just what everybody said. You said, people can have difference of opinion. They can have, you want to unite people. I gave you a difference of opinion as a veteran, and you came back and said that I was personally attacking you, and that is a way of gaslighting and basically, trying to set the idea that I was against you when I just had. That's the statement you made, and what I'm saying is, instead of us just having the debate, because see, I didn't talk about colors, which you probably expected when you came in here.
I did not.
Well, that's fine. I didn't talk about color. I didn't get all emotional about your vision, because I really wanted to just talk about what you've done in service, because you yourself has raised service as the number one thing that what people need to do in order to participate in the country that my ancestors built. And you said that I personally attacked you. So just to give you some advice, if you're going to say, hey, let's have difference of opinion, let's be able to discuss.
I loved everything you did. I loved the whole thing.
Because I had a question that it was a personal attack, because it
was. I don't think a question. I think this is great, because you know what I said? What's the job?
Did you say personal attack?
What's the job? Is everybody needs to know who a candidate is and what they stand for. That's the candidate's job. Whether you vote for them or not, that's your choice.
Did you say I personally attacked you, or did I hear it wrong? I just want to make sure.
I did not say you personally attacked me. No, I said we have actual good. I wanted to know whether or not we were actually able. You said sit around for 20 years. I said I didn't sit around for 20 years, but that's okay. I think that, you know what, if somebody's running for U.S. president, I want to say this.
Well, you can't handle the heat, you stay out of the kitchen. So we'll come in, we can keep and we'll handle the personal attacks. You did say personal attacks, though. So let's be honest. Remember, that's your number one thing, being honest.
And I know you. I agree with you. I know you have to go, but I do disagree on what you said about affirmative action, because I feel like without that legislation, I don't think black people stand a chance. We had to create the legislation to even have a chance.
Yo, do you hear this? Yo, this is what he just said is the exact reason. Yeah, Bez just wrote it. Did he just say that? Saying that black people will not have a chance if there is no affirmative action that includes race is the exact reason why we should not have affirmative action that includes race, because it obviously has crippled us by lowering our standards if we are not able to compete based on the merits of everybody else's. Literally listen to what, this is disgusting, bro. This is some coon shit, bro. This is coonish, bro. This is coonish.
And I don't know why you have faith that without that legislation, things will be fair or on equal footing for black people.
I think that
disagree on what you said about affirmative action, because I feel like without that legislation, I don't think black people stand a chance. We had to create the legislation to even have a chance. And I don't know why you have faith that without that legislation, things will be fair or on equal footing for black people.
I think that most people who benefit from affirmative action are the immigrants who came after Kennedy's immigration reform in the 60s. They are not descendants of slaves. They are people who came as immigrants like my parents did. And so I just think it is a broken system to say that you look like someone to whom a bad thing once happened and you're going to be favored over someone who looks like someone who once did a bad
thing. You think
thing.
your parents would have gotten the same shot without that legislation?
I mean, so it turns out that Asian Americans, Indian Americans
like
don't
you want to take away
benefit
something
from.
that benefited your parents, which directly benefited you.
See, here's what I'm saying is whether or not it's in our past, the question is, how do we actually move forward as one nation? And I do not believe it is with race-based quotas. I believe it is economically empowering all Americans.
I think that legislation was put here to protect people that look like me, people that look like you, and I think you're ridiculous to want to get rid of.
Here's what I would say is,
you're saying that he's ridiculous to want to get rid of it. Name some of the stats. Where has this benefited us? This has been a program for the last 60 years. So if the program benefited us over the last 60 years, why are we still at the bottom? It does not benefit us. And he's saying that it's ridiculous. He's not bringing up anything. He just said, well, I think it's ridiculous. I think it was put here. So you're saying, oh, because you believe that the intent was somebody who wasn't even in politics, you think that it was put there. Now you're talking about intent, right? You're going to judge the intent of something. I don't care about the intent because I can never go back and I wasn't in those rooms. So therefore, me worrying about the intent, trying to decipher between intent, I'm looking at the results. We've had enough time to see the results. It hasn't worked.
Lyndon Johnson's Great Society that this was part of, right? So affirmative action was part of it. There was a broader set of policies designed to help Black Americans, I think have been disastrous for Black Americans and all Americans.
Well, sir, it wasn't disastrous for you. And what Charlamagne is saying is your parents benefited from it.
They did not. I mean, as a point of fact, that's false.
What Charlamagne is saying is, Charlamagne, you're a goof, bro. You're a goof. You got. I speak for yourself. You grown man. It's your show, right? What Charlamagne is saying, here she come trying to with the cape on, trying to.
Saying is your parents benefited from it.
They did not. I mean, as a point of fact, that's false. Indian Americans do not benefit from affirmative action.
No, that's not as a point of fact. No, that's not as a point of fact because without the liberties that Black folks have fought for, which has basically immigrants have been able to prosper in this country because of that. But we're not going to go there. Let's just say.
You see her running. Now she at first talking about affirmative action, saying that his parents benefited from affirmative action. He said it's false. So what she tried to do is now say like, oh, well, y'all benefited from everything Black people fought for, not just affirmative action. Yo, look at how she thinks she's slick. She thinks she's slick.
Americans do not benefit from affirmative action.
No, that's not as a point of fact. No, that's not as a point of fact because without the liberties that Black folks have fought for, which has basically immigrants have been able to prosper in this country because of that. But we're not going to go there. Let's just say they benefited.
We're not going to go there.
Being able to have the freedoms that Black people fought for. That's the bottom line. And then in turn, it benefited you. And then your answer a moment ago was, well, let's not talk about stuff in our past. See, once it benefited you, you were able, you moved on.
I want to be honest with you. You guys want to get real? Let's get real. My parents were.
That's why the heart of a service. No, sir. Because the Black people hadn't fought.
Yeah, we gotta get real. My grandparents lived. They lived in a colonial society. Britain colonized where my grandparents lived as well. But I think that I don't do well by seeing myself as a victim of the white man because actually Great Britain happened to have colonized where my grandparents were actually colonized.
I think you were victorious.
That's moving the goalpost.
I think you were victorious.
What benefited your parents when they got here?
That's right.
What benefited all of us is the fact that we have a free country. Where anybody is free to achieve what they want. I don't know they came to this country with not a lot of money. What benefited them was hard work and dedication. My dad faced layoffs when he was growing up at GE. Right. He went to law school at night to be able to keep his job. What did that teach me?
Affirmative action benefited him?
I don't think affirmative action benefited him. Absolutely not. I think hard work and dedication benefited him. And that's part of what I want to share with all Americans. I want to make this the country where no matter who you are and what your skin color is, you get ahead with your own hard work and commitment and dedication. That you get ahead not on the color of your skin, but the content of your character.
He has to go, guys.
And that's what I want for America.
One more thing. You told a voter that you were open to ending foreign aid to Israel. Then it was reported that it was a misunderstanding. What happened with that?
Yeah, it was. That was a false reporting, actually. So I think.
You never said that?
No, I did not. I said that I was open to actually a broad strategy of disengagement from the Middle East. Mm-hmm. My general view is we fought a lot of pointless wars for a very long time. Ukraine's the pointless war of the moment. And I think that the United States needs to disengage from parts of the world if it does not advance American interests. China's the top threat that we face, and we actually need to prioritize that in our foreign policy.
All right. Well, we appreciate you for joining us.
I appreciate you guys having me.
How do I say? I don't want to say your name right.
Huh?
Do you mean that?
I do mean that, actually, because we don't do this enough, right?
Yeah.
So I do mean that. And I will come back if you guys will have me when I'm in New York City.
absolutely.
Of course.
Do you mean that? You heard Charlamagne say, he said, I appreciate you having me. Charlamagne said, did you mean that? Charlamagne, you ain't asked Biden if he meant it when he said, you ain't black unless you vote for me. But he putting all this pressure on. Yeah, corny, man, corny. These are the people that we get money and platforms to. Like,
Because to your point, the Republican debates will be way worse. By the way.
Oh, yeah.
It's not
Chris
real. I mean, we got to get real with
I
each
can
other.
definitely tell you, Chris is going to ask about your background, so you might want to start volunteering on your free time.
Oh, I don't believe in virtue signaling. I am who I am. I'm an open book. We're all imperfect human beings. We're an imperfect country. We aspire to be the best version of ourselves.
Yeah, that's not virtually signaling, though, sir. That's just a question, and you need to aspire to do something other than something that benefits yourself. That's all. If you want to say you're going to serve the country, the president is a service role. It's not running a business. So
here's the positive I'll give you. I
important.
think your message is powerful for young Americans across this country to hear, and that's
No,
what
my
I'm going to
message
take.
is right for
That's
you.
actually what I'm going to take from this.
No, my message is for you, because you're saying that people need to reach a certain level of service to be able to vote in the country that my ancestors fought and died for. So my message is not for you.
that's not even what he said. He said either pass a test that Charlamagne said was perfectly fine, that all immigrants have to pass in order to vote. And she's conflating things.
You see, I don't do visionary messages. I do direct, straight shot, the host of Straight Shot, No Chaser. My message for you is, if you're going to require people to be a certain age to vote, you should have been able to meet that. My message for you is, if you're going to say that if you can't do that, if you can't pass the test, then you need to be able to provide service to your country. You should have been able to provide service to your country.
My message to you is, if you disagree with me, you don't have to vote for me, but I respect your view, and we need to actually have a country where we need to have this debate in a way that doesn't personalize it.
That's all. I just wanted to point out the discrepancies on your platform versus what you've actually done, because
what
that
do
does
I want
matter.
for the country is, I grew up in this country, and I want to actually lead the next generation to be proud. Well, I appreciate you wishing that for me. And I'm in this because I actually want to give back to a country that, yes, has allowed me to succeed in it. And I want to make sure that the next generation of Americans lives that same dream. Thank you very much.
And as a veteran, I want you to be a leader, and I want you to serve this country before you tell everybody else they got to serve it. That's all. We just have a difference of opinion.
I appreciate your opinion. Thank you.
Is Vivek, did I say that right?
It's Vivek.
Tell them where to donate to your campaign.
Ramaswamy.
Yeah, it's Vivek Ramaswamy. You visit Vivek2024.com. You'll learn more about the campaign, and if the ideas speak to you, then come on and sign up.
All right, it's the Breakfast Club. Good morning.
Appreciate it, guys.
Their energy is corny, bro. It's like they didn't even want him there. But let's get right into this. Hold on. Why y'all maybe get up and stretch for a sec, but we're gonna get right into this because I can't be on here that long, man. We're already on here 2 hours. Yeah. All right. So real quick. All right, check this one out. I just want y'all to check this out. Let me put it in theater mode. Getting rid of that one. Show on stream. Yeah, we just gonna watch this straight through 2 minutes. I'm gonna try not to interrupt. No, I don't believe in the word try. I'm not gonna interrupt. 2 minutes straight through.
Listen, you got to come see us when you come to New York, VP Biden.
I will.
It's a long way until November. We got more questions.
You got more questions, but I tell you, if you have a problem figuring out whether you're for me or Trump, then you ain't black.
It don't have nothing to do with Trump. It has to do with the fact I want something for my community. I would love to see.
Take a look at my record, man. I extended the voting rights 25 years. I have a record that is second to none. The NAACP has endorsed me every time I've run. I mean, come on. Take a look at the record.
You know, I've been critical of you. I have a few things I want to talk to you about.
I know you have.
Yeah.
You don't know me.
No, I don't. That's why I want to get to know you today. I want to talk to you about mostly black stuff.
I get overwhelming support from the black leadership, young and old. Every poll shows me way ahead.
And black people saved your political life in the primaries this year. They have things they want from you. And one of them is a black woman running mate. What do you say to them?
What I say to them is that I'm not acknowledging anybody who is being considered, but I guarantee you there are multiple black women being considered. We've seen it more clearly now. In a black majority county, they're 6 times more likely to die in the pandemic than a white county. They're disproportionately uninsured in the African American community, disproportionately make up the essential jobs that they can't do at home. They're risking their lives every day. Enough's enough.
What's something that you always carry with you?
Hot sauce.
Really?
Yeah.
Really?
Are you getting information right now?
Hot sauce.
Hot sauce in my bag, Swag?
Hot sauce.
Really?
Yes.
Now listen, I
yes.
just want you to know, people are going to see this and say, okay, she's pandering to black people again.
Okay. Is it working?
Let me get this off the street. Yeah. All right. So a couple different things. You see the energy with Hillary. See the energy with Biden. These are people that have for years disrespected us, made promises to us that they didn't keep, prioritized the needs and agendas of other groups, even though you got somebody like Biden who actually is responsible for the crime bill that locked so many of us up, or locked so many of fathers to our communities up. And he doesn't even hold his son accountable to those same principles. We've seen the videos that I already put up. You know, him, if you smoke this little bit of crack, you're locked up 5 years. And then you see Hunter Biden smoking crack like he's smoking stogies, like cigarettes. And it's not a big deal, right? All right, so let's look into that. So I just wanted y'all to see the difference in energy where you won't hold accountable the people that you've been voting for and that the people that you've been supporting. That's like me. Let's say I have 2 different businesses or 2 different places that 2 different bagel stores. Let's keep on the bagel stores that I go to. This bagel store that I go to, they know my favorite bagel is a whole wheat everything. Let's say I keep going there, but they never have whole wheat everythings. But I'm supporting their business. I keep asking them to get whole wheat, go get whole wheat, whatever. They keep telling me they're going to do it. But then this other bagel store who I never go to, I keep the first one that I always go to, I'm just nice to them. Like, oh, can you make me a whole wheat? They just keep saying yes. Don't do it. This other group, I just walk in there the first day and I say, do you have whole wheat everythings? And then them say, oh, no, we don't. Well, why don't you have whole wheat everythings? You should have whole wheat everythings. This is ridiculous. Bro, this doesn't make any sense. Why are you not getting as upset of the people that you've been supporting and that have been telling you and making promises to you? You're checking them more than you're checking somebody. Yo, this is your first time here, bro. We didn't know. You don't have avocado either? Yeah, they don't got avocado. Come on, bro. Come on. And then I want to touch on, okay, so a couple different points. But why was it so important to have a black woman as a VP? Why was that such a thing? And Bez wrote it actually in his comment. Let me highlight this comment. Why do we feel so entitled? Let me leave that up while we go into detail on this. Why do we feel so entitled? And why was it so important to have a black woman as vice president? And you know what's so funny? She literally has the lowest, what is it when they do what's it called when they do the study of somebody's not popularity, approval rating? She has the lowest approval rating, I believe, of any vice president. But everybody was so amped, right? Oh, we need to have a black woman as VP. When you just start pushing people because they're black, because of this, a woman, instead of just based on merit, what happens? This is a perfect case of affirmative action. Kamala is an affirmative action vice president. And what happens? She's handcuffed. It's like they don't even want to let her outside the house. She does absolutely nothing. The only things that she handles are trivial. You don't see her positioning herself to talk about anything that's important. They don't allow her to. They just kind of let her just sit over there like, yo, this is just symbolism. imagery, but it made us feel good. It still makes us feel good, right? Barack Obama, seeing Barack and Michelle, it made us feel good. And now just seeing Kamala, it makes us feel good. But it doesn't do anything for us to actually be good. Sticking back to that point. Hold on, did I already address that? Oh yeah, we already talked about the Hillary video. Yeah, we're finishing up. I just want to make sure that I touch on everything. All right, so this is one thing that I'm gonna finish it up with this. I'm a big pros and cons person. So I just like to look at the pros and cons of one particular thing, look at the pros and cons of another. When we look at the positives or the negatives, let's say, associated with getting rid of affirmative action as far as using race as a factor in the affirmative action, what are the negatives of it? Can somebody give me one negative? Because the only negatives that I hear are that less people will be able to go to those groups. You heard Charlamagne say, or less people be able to go to those schools. Less people will get those job opportunities. Less people, black people won't be able to compete. That's what Charlamagne said. Those are the negatives. Now let's look at the positives. Now we're going to address the negatives because those negatives may not be negatives, but we'll address them. What are the positives? What are the positives of getting rid of the race? There now is a higher standard. Immediately, when you take away race, there's now a higher standard to where people now have to score higher on their SAT scores. The standard is higher. You can no longer say, they're black, so therefore we can admit them at this lower SAT score. You can't do that. So it forces you. If you want to go to that school, then it forces you to have your standard. We're judged by our standards. We become our standards. Our standards that we set for ourselves determine the type of person that we're going to become, how successful or not successful we're going to become. Standards. Most important thing that we can have is standards. So it's going to force us to have a higher standard to qualify based on what the same qualifications that everybody else should have. What are the positives? Get in where you qualify and can succeed. So if you qualify there, rather than us having the issues where they were saying what a lot of the what ends up happening when you have these affirmative action either hires or people coming to the school admittance, they end up, a lot of the black population, African-American population ends up in academic probation because they lowered the standard for them to get into the school. So now they are not able to compete on the standard to be successful while at the school. Now, what does that do to your head? What does that do to your mindset? You go to this amazing institution, but you're at the bottom of it. And you're seeing what the other people look like you're at the top. So it's still, to me, that's a positive to where now wherever I get in, I'm going to better qualify for it. I want a better fit. I want whatever role, I'm more likely to be successful in a role that I'm qualified for rather than a role that I am not qualified for. Another positive that I thought, they said, well, if less people go in there, maybe more people go to HBCUs. Maybe we'll start to treat our own institutions as the prestigious institutions of the PWIs, the predominantly white institutions. So going back to the negatives, when I wrote that less people being admitted from a group, so where will they go? They got to go somewhere, right? So even those negatives are going to turn into positives. I said in the business case, with my dad, if he didn't get an affirmative action, and I'm not even sure if affirmative action helped him, but if he did not, let's say he was turned away from an opportunity because for whatever reason, they didn't want to hire him. He's forced to now go somewhere else. You're either forced to find somewhere else to where you do qualify for that wants to hire you, or you're forced to create your own. And that's what we need to be focused on, creating our own and feeding our own, building our own, contributing to our own. And maybe this is the answer that we need to uplift a lot of our HBCUs and other schools. But I just see it as a focus on the HBCUs being an opportunity. So this was pretty much the show today. I'm glad y'all got to tap in with me. 2 hours. That's about right. That's about right. But I'm gonna let y'all go. It's Friday. We'll finish off with 20 seconds on a Friday, let's say, what should our 20 seconds be? Let's focus on maybe a couple different areas, just one area. Let's focus on one area that we want to increase our standards in. And just think about that. Let's think about, how we need to hold ourselves accountable, responsible for increasing our standards. And then think about, once we do increase our standards, where that's going to take us, what that type of success looks like as we become better, because we are now forced to have a higher standard and live up to that higher standard. So just take 20 seconds to think about that. All right. It's Friday. Happy Friday. Appreciate y'all tapping in. Strength and honor. Why I say honor, like honor. Strength and honor. Onward and upward. Get to the bag with integrity, of course. Have a great weekend. And I'll see y'all bright and early on Monday. Ew.